Either way, it's been really nice to see Sanders make some progressions, but there's still some individuals who doubt his ability to play well against quality opponents. I mentioned this a few weeks ago when the team played Kansas State, and how I think this is an overblown issue, and that this is more of a repeated talking point than anything of true substance. He was so good in the middle stretch of the season with his decision making and how he handled pressure, but now he's looking closer to the broken quarterback he was last year. He's just such a special player that I do really think he could be the first non-quarterback edge rusher or lineman to be taken in a long time with the number 1 pick in the next coming draft. With a lot of people catching up on tight ends who deserve attention as prospects, Klare is someone who should be a priority for anyone scouting tight ends. Hey y'all, back with another watch list video. This week I'll be covering my usual 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. As usual, I have the players included in the video, but if you'd prefer to read through the players instead, you can read them in my Substack article in the description. You can subscribe to my Substack if you want to keep up with the written articles, but you can also subscribe to this channel if you want to keep up with the content. So let's get back to the watch list for this weekend. The first quarterback that I'll be watching is Shedeur Sanders from Colorado. Sanders has established himself at least being the second best quarterback in this prospective draft class, which, shameless plug, you can check out my full rankings with the link that should be on the screen now for the quarterbacks. He's made some improvements standing strong in the pocket and being willing to take some hits, but honestly a lot of what keeps him at number 2 is just the rest of the class falling apart. Either way, it's been really nice to see Sanders make some progressions, but there's still some individuals who doubt his ability to play well against quality opponents. I mentioned this a few weeks ago when the team played Kansas State, and how I think this is an overblown issue, and that this is more of a repeated talking point than anything of true substance. Plus, if you're a non-audio viewer or a video viewer, you can see that Sanders had a good game against Kansas State, completing 34 of his 40 passes for 388 yards, 3 touchdowns, and just 1 interception. He still takes some bad sacks, which killed some drives, and that is a legitimate concern for him, and it is something that comes up more in big games when he's trying to force things too much. But he has shown he can read the full field and make good decisions to give his team a chance to win against better teams. With just a few weeks left in a regular season and Colorado pushing for a playoff bid and a big opportunity for Sanders to prove himself on the national stage against good quality competition, he'll have to keep this up and keep his team winning. This week will likely be the toughest remaining game for Colorado in the regular season when they take on Utah. As usual, Utah has a good defense and will likely be playing angrily after losing a close game to BYU last weekend. Utah will now be on their 4th quarterback for this season, so the game should be very winnable for Colorado, but I still want to see how Sanders handles the pressure and a tough defense. So be sure to check out Sanders when he takes on Utah this Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. The other quarterback I'll be watching is Cade Klubnik from Clemson. Klubnik has been a riser in the middle of the season after the team's game against Georgia, but has been sputtering the past few weeks. He was so good in the middle stretch of the season with his decision making and how he handled pressure, but now he's looking closer to the broken quarterback he was last year. In his past 2 games against Louisville and Virginia Tech, he only completed just 49 of his 90 passes, equaling out to a 54% completion percentage, 439 passing yards, which equals out to about 4.88 yards per pass attempt, 4 touchdowns, thankfully just 1 interception, and has taken 6 sacks while adding 73 rushing yards on 27 carries. Other than the interceptions and maybe the rushing yards, those are pretty bad numbers. The number of sacks in his rushing isn't too bad, but it is a sign of his struggles against pressure coming up again with his increased number of rushes and leaving the pocket. This is also just against Louisville and Virginia Tech. They're definitely tougher than a lot of the teams Clemson played in the middle part of the season, but they aren't amazing teams and aren't even ranked. I really wanted to buy more into Klubnik developing and being a better passer and getting over his past issues, but old habits die hard. So I'll be interested to see if his old habits continue this weekend when the team travels for another tough matchup against Pittsburgh. Again, Pittsburgh isn't an amazing team, but they are a good team, so I'll be interested to see if his same issues come up for Klubnik. So be sure to check out Klubnik against Pittsburgh this Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Sticking with the Clemson-Pittsburgh game, I'll also be watching Phil Mafah from Clemson. While Klubnik has struggled these past few weeks, Mafah's been really solid, and he arguably had some of his best games of the season, especially his recent game against Louisville, putting up nearly 200 total yards, and being a true workhorse back in the run and pass game. I like Mafah, and though I do think he has limitations, he's a great plowing running back who's reliable of ensuring the team picks up some positive yards on his carries. I would just like to see him have more of an impact in the receiving game. His 5-reception game against Louisville was nice, but he's only had 3 or more targets in 2 other games this whole season. If an NFL team just wants an early down back, he's proven his value there, but he needs to show some more versatility or be at risk of being a day 3 pick who ends up getting overlooked for more balanced backs. With a matchup against Pittsburgh, who could keep pace with Clemson, the team will need Mafah's rushing and may even need to rely on him more in the passing game. So I'm hoping that he'll have a similar performance as his Louisville game. So be sure to watch Phil Mafah when he travels to take on Pittsburgh this Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. The other running back I'll be watching is Raheim Rocket Sanders from South Carolina. I'm kind of kicking myself for not having Sanders higher in my midseason rankings, which another quick shameless plug with my running back rankings video if you want to see the full list. But I feel like I've been one of Sanders' biggest fans since 2023 offseason, and now that I finally had a little bit of doubt, he put up an incredible game against Texas A&M, putting up nearly 250 total yards, so I guess that's what I get for doubting my boy. I still have some reservations about him because I'm still scared about the possibility that he's going to end up going to be one of those players that continues to have on and off injuries that either hold him back from his potential or just hold him back from being the lead back that he has the talent to be. I wasn't as impressed with him in the last draft cycle, but had similar concerns with now Packers running back Marshawn Lloyd when he was at USC. Lloyd struggles with injuries in college and now as a pro, and has basically been stuck on IR with different injuries throughout the season. Now he may finally return this year, but at this point we're past middle point of the year, so not a whole lot of impact he's had so far. Availability is one of the biggest strengths of players in the NFL, and it couldn't be more true for the running back position. There are just too many running backs who came into the league with talent, but got surpassed on the depth chart due to injury. So I just want to see Sanders finish the year strong and healthy and make me feel more confident in his ability to stay healthy. He'll have a tough test this week when the team takes on number 23 Missouri. Missouri isn't the team they were last year, but they're still a quality team and should put up a fight against South Carolina. If Sanders repeats his performance that he had against Texas A&M, I'll be ready to get back as the driver of the hype train. So be sure to check out Sanders take on number 23 ranked Missouri this Saturday at 4:15 p.m. Eastern. Moving to wide receivers and circling back to the Colorado-Utah game, I'll be watching Travis Hunter from Colorado. I swear this is the last duplicate for players on the same team, but it's just a pretty light schedule this week, so I just had to double dip a couple times. But I have to also include Hunter for the absolute tear he's been on these past few games. Against Texas Tech and Cincinnati, he's put up 18 receptions for 252 yards and 3 touchdowns despite still playing defense. He's always been great, but he seems to really be heating up again, and it's a big reason why I was so high on him in my midseason receiver rankings, which, again, another shameless plug if you want to check out my full receivers ranking video. But it's been a lot of fun to watch Hunter develop as a receiver and still be a dominant corner. I've mentioned it before, and I still stand by it, that I think he will play receiver in the NFL. With him now showing that he can play inside and outside as a receiver, it only adds that potential that he has if he commits to the position. He has incredible burst and twitch, excellent ball skills, and is clearly a quick learner with developing at both positions. He's just such a special player that I do really think he could be the first non-quarterback edge rusher or lineman to be taken in a long time with the number 1 pick in the next coming draft. Like Sanders though, he'll need to again prove he can produce against a quality Utah defense. Though I like Utah receiver Dorian Singer will likely be the only player capable of giving Hunter any type of challenge, and we'll see if the new Utah quarterback can even get the ball to him consistently. So Hunter might be able to focus his attention on offense again and have another great game. So be sure to check out Travis Hunter take on Utah this Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. The other receiver I'll be watching is Isaiah Bond from Texas. Bond has had a disappointing season, but I don't entirely put it on him. He went to Texas to be the guy with Ewers, but Ewers has still had to focus on completing short to intermediate passage, which has been leading to Gunnar Helm being the biggest riser in the passing game. Bond still has great speed and deep threat ability, but he just doesn't look to get enough opportunity to be able to showcase it. I would like to see him get more work in the short and intermediate areas of the field like Xavier Worthy did last year, but right now, with Bond being a relatively non-productive deep threat and at his size, he may be at risk for not getting good draft capital. He'll likely have a great combine, but if he disappoints like Jalen Hyatt did a few years ago, he might be in trouble. I mentioned it before, but it seems like the transfer to Texas may have been a mistake. Now this is just going to be me getting into my pretend NCAA 25 imaginary world, but I would actually love to see a world where Bond returns to school and transfers to LSU to play with Nussmeier if he returns to school as well, with the way how he loves to air it out. I don't think that'll happen, but I think it could really help both out. But anyways, getting back to reality, Bond will need to start to string together some productive games. He'll likely have a number of opportunities in the playoffs, but it'll be best to start a hot streak in the regular season to carry that over into the playoffs. This weekend, he'll have a good chance against an Arkansas defense that just got totally torn to shreds by Ole Miss 2 weeks ago. So be sure to check out Bond when he travels to Arkansas to take them on this Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Finishing things out with tight ends, we have a tight end who some may argue isn't actually a tight end, Oronde Gadsden II from Syracuse. Gadsden has been making the conversion from receiver to tight end, and it's been going great so far this season. I talked about it and why it led to me having him high in my midseason tight end rankings video, which, I swear, one final shameless plug, then I'm done for a while, but again, you can click on the link that should be on the screen now. But Gadsden has managed to put on a little bit of weight on and has managed to look the same as a pass catcher while still being passable as a blocker. He still isn't that explosive of a pass catcher, but it's still really good if we consider him as a tight end now. As for his blocking, I specifically said it was passable because it's still not good by any means. Honestly, I don't think it ever will be for him. But I just want to see that he can get to the point that he's not a revolving door for defenders, and that he can lay a good chip on a rusher, which he seems to be able to do at this time. What I also want to see him do more, though, is get back to playing inline. He's been playing more from the slot lately, but he'll need to get as many reps as he can from the line to be able to prove that he's a true tight end and isn't masquerading as a big slot for NFL teams. If he can have those snap percentages tip the other way a little bit, then I think he's really cooking and could get a lot of attention in the draft. So I'll be watching Gadsden II and watching to see where Syracuse uses him when the team travels to take on Cal this Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. For the final player I'll be watching this week, I'll be watching Klare from Purdue. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not a sucker for punishments and I have no interest in watching a struggling offense, so I didn't watch too much of Purdue before I did my midseason scouting. When I did get around to them though, I came away extremely impressed with Klare. He has pretty good size, good route running, and is a capable blocker. He's not great at anything just yet, but he looks like a really promising player who's been able to produce despite the lack of cohesion and talent around him. With a lot of people catching up on tight ends who deserve attention as prospects, Klare is someone who should be a priority for anyone scouting tight ends. With Klare not being a finished product, I can see him returning to school to Purdue for another season or transferring out after the season. If he does go to another school, I think he could be one of the most sought out tight end transfers and could really take off if he goes to the right situation. With him still at Purdue this season, he'll have to continue to find a way to make himself stand out and will have a tough test this weekend when he takes on number 4 ranked Penn State. It might get ugly for the Purdue offense against Penn State, but I'll still be interested to see what Klare can do. So be sure to check out Klare against number 4 Penn State this Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And that does it for week 12. Let me know who you'll be watching this weekend, as I'd love to see who else I should be paying attention to. Also, I've been putting some thought into it now that my midseason scouting series is wrapped up, and for those who follow me for Dynasty and Fantasy Football, I'll likely be putting together my midseason 2025 Dynasty Rookie Rankings big board. I'm not sure when I will be able to get it out, if I'll be able to get it out next week or when I'll be able to get it, since it might take me a little bit since I think I'm at 82 total players if I include circling back to watch Cam Scatterboo, and if I did my math right with all the players I did in my rankings. But to make sure you don't miss that or any other future watch list or any other content in general, be sure to subscribe. While you're at it, like the video as it would help the channel and this series grow thanks to you. And if you want just a written form of the basics of the players to watch, you can again subscribe to my Substack. But thank you all and see you all next time.